The remittance market is one it's such low-hanging fruit, and it seems like everyone is going after the money transfer as sort of the first step in FinTech. How do you stay ahead of competitors? And when you think about the market that you're in right now, where literally like every day I see another company that's trying to do money transfer or remittance, how do you stay above the noise as TransferWise? What is it about the technology?
So I think the fun thing to keep in mind is that you really need to think about the market. So when most people talk about the remittance market, they refer to the $500-600 billion a year market of money going from developed world to developing world. No, actually, when we think about our market, we think about all of the money moving around the world for consumers and small to medium businesses, and we think about the market which is 5 to 10 trillion on an annual basis. So it's about 10-20 times more than the remittance market. That's a market we see that we're operating in.
Right.
So remittance, sending money from US to Philippines, a tiny part of what we do. We are building a general purpose company for everyone. Our mission is to make sure all the money in the world can move, whether it's remittance, money transfer, whether it's going from India to US, US to India.
Right.
So over time we will be doing that all.
How much of that right now is enterprises or investors that are arbitraging based on sort of the lower fees that y'all provide versus sort of the peer-to-peer? When I think of TransferWise, I think of it as being, or TransferWire. I don't know if y'all are actually rebranding, but if you wanted to, you could. The way that I think about y'all's business is more like, oh shit, I'm going to be in London tomorrow because I'm a globe-trotting motherfucker. I don't know if I can even say that, but I just did.
No, I think the Swiss police will be here shortly.
No, but I like my globe-trotting, world-traveling, journalistic ways. I need to like I need to be able to convert currency versus like big institutions. When I think about where the money is in money.
So I think you're probably actually not a great customer for us.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I doubt any bank will open you a bank account. We actually So like if you're traveling from New York to London,
right,
you need to have a bank account in London, bank account in New York. If you don't have that, we can't help you today. We don't deal with cash. You're unfortunately going to have to use your American Express Polonium card and pay the 3% charge that they will take from you.
It's the black. I have the black. So
is it on your forehead?
The black card, yeah, and also I'm branded MasterCard.
So you mentioned enterprises. We are a consumer business.
Right.
We're consumer driven. We are mostly serving consumers. We have small to medium businesses. Let's think about a wine merchant who is in a French company selling wine to UK, or a UK cheese importer who is buying manchego from Spain. So because these people are similarly underserved by their banks, but the focus is on consumers. We don't have any enterprise customers. These people have different needs. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't recommend them to use TransferWise because we're not set up for that.
Would you want? I mean, when you think about how TransferWise is going to grow, and where the future of the business is it still in SMBs? Is it consumer, or is it?
Kind of what I believe, and going a little bit back on my Skype experience. So Skype started out as a consumer product,
right?
And then we saw consumers taking it to their workplace. You could see small companies operating entirely on Skype, throwing out their desk phones. And then over time, Skype built a business offering, and over time, Skype bought and sold. Now it belongs to Microsoft. It's integrated into Microsoft Lync, makes it total enterprise grade. That's like a 12-year journey that Skype has gone through. So we're starting similarly. We're a consumer-focused business. Our consumers tend up being entrepreneurs we're actually thinking more about what else we could be doing for small to medium businesses to make it even better. But over time, who knows where we'll get to. But
Right.
I think it's about naturally growing and then kind of you grow. Also, you grow with your customers.
Right. Well, but so there's natural growth, and you look at these SMBs, and you talk to about sort of the cheese merchant or the cheesemonger or the wine merchant. I love saying monger; it's just a great word.
Money monger.
Or the money monger, and how you grow with that business. At some point, does TransferWise look to become a bank itself?
What is a bank?
That's an excellent question. We're here at Davos. We're supposed to think loftily. Like, what is a bank to you when you think about money?
So I think you need to separate bank as a collection of services to do stuff with your money. Keeping your money, actually something that banks are still pretty good at. Money transfer, banks are pretty bad at. Lending, there's a lot of people looking at lending besides the banks, asset management, savings, and so on. So that's one way to look at the bank.
Right.
Other way, maybe a more technocratic way is to look at the bank as a banking license, which the government gives you. I don't think what a bank will be for customers in 10 years' time. I doubt it'll be the same as it is today.
Right.
But when it comes to TransferWise, when it comes to TransferWire, then what's I have to correct myself here. Then we are, we feel that we're a small company.
Right.
We need to stay incredibly focused
Right.
on doing one thing and doing it really well. So, money transfer is our mission.
Right.
And given the $5 to $10 trillion markets that I told you about, there's plenty of work for us. Our work is literally cut out for the next 10 years. Today we have 5% market share in the UK. How can we double or triple this? How do we get US to 5%? How do we get Australia to 5%?
Right.
How do we get US to 10%? So there's quite a number of countries in the world. So in that sense, it's just kind of like a parallel effort of moving different countries along.
Now, how did you I don't know if you've told this origin story 100 times or 1,000 times, but I love origin stories. I'm a nerd. It's like the comic book you gave me. How did you become a money transfer superhero? Like, what was the journey from Skype to what really needs to happen is I need to work on this money. This.
The journey really started during Skype. So during my Skype time, at one point I moved from Estonia to London.
Right.
And then I still stayed on the payroll in Estonia. So every month I had to walk to the bank in Estonia, tell them, "Dear bank, please transfer 1,000 euros to London." Every month the bank said, "Yes, Mr. Taavet, we're happy to do this. We're going to charge you 25 euros for it. And,
Right.
Your money will be there in 5 days." And then, I go to London and I get my bank statement and I look at, it took 5 days. Like, what is that? In the 21st century when an email
Right.
moves instantaneously, why doesn't money move instantaneously? So it took forever. And also I realized that besides 25 euros the bank told me about, the exchange rates they used was very different from the exchange rate that Google tells me about.
Right.
So I kind of realized that they have a hidden markup on the exchange rate, which is pretty nasty of them. That kind of pissed me off and pissed my co-founder off. So he had the same experience. He was sending money from London back to Estonia, and then we kind of started thinking about it, and we realized that, wait a minute, there's something we can do about it. So next month I transferred money from my account in Estonia to his account in Estonia, and he transferred money from his account in London to my account in London, and we just Googled for the exchange rate.
Right.
And then Bloomberg told us exchange rate this, and we used that, and boom, it worked.
Right. So to abstract this a little bit, one of obviously Davos is the theme for this thing is the fourth industrial revolution. How much is the fourth industrial revolution, to your mind, not necessarily about industry, but about peer-to-peer? So when I think about the revolutions that are happening in business models and technology and this notion of the sharing economy, and just peers transacting amongst each other, seems to be not an industrial concept, but more like we're just operating on this network of this human network. And I don't want to abstract this too much, but
So I think
there's a power in this. I think.
I haven't been thinking enough about it, but I have a feeling. So, it's a peer-to-peer economy, collaborative stuff. I think it's amazing. Better utilization of resources. I think all of that is super amazing. But I do have a feeling that we're getting a little bit misguided at times. So maybe eBay started as a peer-to-peer marketplace. Now people are, corporations selling stuff on eBay. It's a shop. Right. It doesn't matter if it's peer-to-peer or not. What matters is, do I, as a customer, get my stuff quickly?
It's the definition that I think that is the definition of peering. Is sort of you can think of like the business-to-business transactions that happen on eBay as still peer-to-peer. It's just a different kind of peer, right?
Absolutely, it's just matching buyers and sellers.
Right.
So, same thing with Uber. Started out people, giving a ride to others in their car. Now people are working full time. Soon they will be replaced by robots, and there's no peer-to-peer anymore.
Right.
I just heard this morning. It was. It could have been. Served in this way purposefully, but it was the CEO of Intercontinental, the biggest or one of the biggest hotel chains, and he was telling about Airbnb that guess what, there was a report that just came out that said that a very large chunk of Airbnb's business is people who bought an apartment with the goal of renting it out on Airbnb. That's amazing, but it's kind it's somewhat of a step further away from the original idea. And I'm not saying it's bad. I think it's still great. Again, consumers are getting a better deal. Consumers are getting that apartment in Manhattan, getting it for a better price than Intercontinental.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who are super happy with that.
Well, but also awesome. the hotel business hasn't actually suffered with Airbnb. I was talking to someone, Jesus, I forget who it was, but the hotel business is booming right now. Boutique hotels, more and more are getting built. More and more people are renting rooms, and I think this is just a function of sort of economic growth. We'll see what happens in the downturn, and we'll see what happens with Airbnb in the downturn. But getting to this notion of the sort of the evolution of the shared economy or peering, it seems on some level that y'all are functioning in much the same way. At least initially, the thesis was. Like sort of screw it. Like banks aren't doing this for me. Let's hack it and find a way to.
I think like in a way it's maybe it's kind of like it is some way kind of democratization and platformization. Basically just Intercontinental or any other of these hotel firms. They're a very kind of closed ecosystem.
Right.
Versus actually Airbnb is an open platform. Anybody can plug in rooms. You plug in rooms from here, people come from here. So it's just kind of, you're opening up the hospitality industry.
Right, exactly.
So, I think that could be another way to think about it.
Right.
And I'm just making it all up.
But so would you draw a corollary between what Airbnb is doing with the hospitality industry and what you're doing with money money exchange?
Totally agree on multiple layers. So first of all, in TransferWise, we started out with this peer-to-peer idea.
Yeah.
So we're sending pounds to euros, euros to pounds. But guess what happened next? People came to TransferWise, said, "Hey, you guys are offering this amazing service, sending money from UK to Estonia, Germany, Spain, but I want to send money to India." So we were like puzzled. We're never ever going to be getting money from India.
Right.
So what do we do? So then we realized, okay, actually, it's part of our mission to help people send money to India, even if it's not done in a peer-to-peer fashion, because we can still do it better. We can do it cheaper, faster, better than the banks or Western Union or PayPal for that matter.
Right.
So kind of, maybe we can think about it. We enlarged our mission. At a very early days. So now if we think about taking this to the bank level, I think you could think about a future where bank is an open marketplace. So you as a consumer click whether you want to keep your money in Barclays or Lloyds. It's kind of one click. Then if you want to lend something, you have a choice between Lending Club, Funding Circle, whoever. Completely open, transparent. Consumer chooses, and different service providers will start catering to different segments and different needs, but consumer will be in charge. That would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool. So
That could be the future.
When
that
you-
could be the fourth industrial revolution.
well, in finance, there are multiple ways in which this fourth industrial revolution palaver will play out. But it is an interesting notion that really what it comes down to is technology affords choice, right? And so there's an ability for the consumer to have more agency and operate more as sort of they can be the agent of their own destiny. If they want to park money in Lending Club, they park money in Lending Club. If they want to park money with a traditional bank, they park money with a traditional bank. If they want to use a robo-advisor like Wealthfront or Betterment, they use a lending advisor, whatever, one of these robo-advisors. How far out do you think about these kinds of things? Like when you look at where TransferWise. No, I'm kidding. When you look at where y'all sit in the financial technology ecosystem, how integrated do you need to be with these other players or providers? How integrated do you want to be? Is it because consumers are lazy, right? And dumb. I'm dumb. I'm a moron.
I'm lazy.
And
You're dumb.
and I'm super lazy. And right now I'm tired too. But you think about how these different discrete companies need to at some point, I think, integrate to become the financial services provider. People tend to like shit on banks all the time, but there's a reason why people use Bank of America for everything. It's because Bank of America provides everything.
So I don't think anyone has the answers. I think there is a whole lot of experimentation we have to do as an industry, as a society, to find out where we end up. So you can kind of think about it. There is this kind of notion of universal banking. You go to UBS and they give you all you need, for your life.
Right.
You never need as a bank. You get a mortgage, you get a credit card, you
Right.
do your money transfer, etc.
Right. And they know everything about me.
That's kind of one side. The
ostensibly.
other extreme is that you use TransferWise for money transfer. You use Lending Club for lending, Betterment for wealth management, and then you only need to keep your money in a bank, and then you use all these services. The truth is going to be somewhere in the middle. You'll see people tying things up in different bundles, and the question is it going to be are we going to end up at 90-10 here,
right.
or are we going to end up 90-10
right.
here? And nobody knows, and it'll be different in different countries.
Right.
Also, regulation will play an important role here.
Right.
But I think the key here is that everybody needs to experiment. I think the thing which we can take for granted is that a large chunk of financial services is going to be offered by tech companies in the future. So when today, we can simplify it, we can say 99% of financial services is offered by financial services firms and banks, and 1% is tech companies today.
Right.
Then 10 years from now,
It's
we'll
gonna be
see
50-50 or 60-40.
Yeah, 50, maybe too optimistic. I'd say 30% for tech companies.
Look, I need to have a job,
matter.
my friend, in the future. So I'm
Your
hoping
job is
50-50. I
guaranteed,
gotta. We'll see about that. What is the question that you wish a reporter would ask you that no one's asked you about all of this? Like if you were to have an open forum to pontificate wildly about all of this stuff, what are we missing as journalists because we're too myopic or dumb to...
I think it's maybe about it's kind of more long-term dreaming.
Yeah.
I think I think facilitating that would be pretty exciting to see. If you put me in a room with some lending people.
Let's say Western Union
or Western Union.
Right.
So I think
Right.
I think pushing that more could
Lending.
be interesting. Let's just what if you? So what if instead of me and you, we had somebody from peer-to-peer lending here, somebody from asset management? Maybe we could dream up what a bank would look like in 5 years' time.
Right.
So.
What's interesting to me is that you seem to be very laser focused on this issue of money transfer, but the guys I talk to in the States, especially a lot of the lenders, when they talk about their business, they don't talk about it in terms of we're just lenders or we're providing this capital for small businesses or whoever else. They're like, we are going to be the bank. And the way that we're entering into the consumer's consciousness is through loans, because loans are sticky, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, people need to service them. When we lend you money, all of a sudden you have this relationship with us. We know what you're spending it on, or we ostensibly will. And then from there, we will metastasize in your sort of financial life, not like a cancer, but to cover more and more.
Are they just spinning up a story to justify their lofty valuations?
Well, there's that too. I mean, I could talk to you all day about it. This is awesome. I would love to talk to you about sort of where you see the European investment market going these days. Well, shit, I can. Whatever. I have as much time as you do, so you tell me when you want to go. But when you let's sort of move away from the FinTech business to talk about sort of investment in Europe, if you don't mind. Where the market in the States seems to be fairly chastened right now, and there's a lot of talk about the bubble bursting and whatever. Is Europe having the same sort of crisis of confidence? Do you have a sense that the good times, such as they are over?
I think Europe is in the best position ever. I'm not a fan of unicorn lists or any of that, but I think in one recent list there was 17% of companies on that list were from Europe.
Right.
From kind of like one company 10 years ago. So I think that's showing the huge amount of catch-up Europe is doing and the huge amount of progress that is being made here.
Right.
If you look at investments, and I think in London we've had ballpark of 10 new funds in the past 1-2 years. Some of them are $30 million, some of them are 150. Fantastic. If you look at what Atomico is doing, again, a relatively new entrant compared to Index Ventures. So
I like how you're giving the shout out to the Skype guys.
There's a little Skype mafia. You've heard of that?
Yeah.
So there's so much more happening, and then if you compare US to Europe,
right.
What's a bigger market? Who has more people, more STEM graduates? Guess what? Europe wins.
I mean, but I agree with you to a certain extent, but there's this sense that people love to talk about Europe as a monolith when it suits people to talk about Europe as a monolith. And the fact of the matter is that it's still incredibly fragmented. It's not a union in the same way that the United States is like one corporate sort of conglomerate entity or whatever. Europe is a bunch of 1,000-year-old nation states that still bicker, still have their pissing contests about who's in charge of what, when, why, and how. And it's not as integrated. So yes, on one level, you're right. STEM, Europe wins. As a market, if you think about Europe as a market, Europe wins. But no one in Europe thinks about Europe as a market, right? I mean, the UK is still debating whether or not they're fucking going to really join the European Union. And the fact that that's happening, I don't want to pontificate too much. This is out of my depth, but it seems to hamstring any efforts that the EU would have to be the powerhouse that it wants to be. I'm going to set that aside. I have one last question for you. Why is Skype so shitty now? It's so terrible.
It's a sad story. I don't. I think there is this giant corporation, the Borg, which is now in charge. Um, you can, I think Satya is somewhere around here.
He's around. I'll ask him when we sit down.
But I think that, personally, it's sad. I think Skype could have dominated much more of communication, but I do think that Skype puts the wheels in motion.
Right.
And then now the idea of pressing that one green button to have a high definition video call, if it works, it seems so normal. And FaceTime, WhatsApp, a lot of things have been built on the same thesis. So it got the train going. It's still a company with 300 million users. Might be in a tiny decline, but I actually think Microsoft also is not a bad owner for it. Because I think Skype sadly suffered from being bought and sold a little bit too much. So now there's one owner, so they will get their act together, and I do have hopes for a brighter future ahead for Skype. I think it's an iconic brand.
Right.
And in a way also, the idea of pressing that green button, it's so much inspiration for TransferWise.
Right.
Sending money should be the same. You click a green button and the monies are done.
I could talk to you all day, my friend. It's so great.